Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. Roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right? I want a man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West. Internet.
Is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
Welcome to another episode of Auto Off Topic. How's it going, Brad?
Andrew, it's going wonderful. How's it going with you?
It's going pretty good. You know, recovering from daylight savings that really threw me for a loop this week. Usually doesn't bother me, but it was really, I don't know, it was hard to get up this week.
But this is the week that you should love because it means that I'm not going to say the word, but the season, there we go. The season is changing and getting back to the better season for cars.
It is. It's coming. It's coming. I rolled the dice. I put the snowblower back in the shed. So we'll see what happens. Because
snowstorm, obviously.
Yeah. I'm going to start pulling the cars out to do some work on them. I got to figure out why it felt like when I took the Galant out last year for a sticker, it felt like one of the brakes was sticking or something. So I want to figure that out.
It probably was because you don't drive them and
probably.
There's moisture in the air. So you probably have a stuck caliper again.
Yeah, I got to figure that out. So sooner rather than later. And I was like, man, I should really start with that subframe I've got sitting there in front of the car that goes to the Talon. Take it all apart, put the arms I have on it. It was kind of weird too. Like I was at Home Depot getting some seafoam to put in the snowblower, and I saw that PB Blaster like evaporust stuff, and I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." To like soak parts in and like makes rust go away.
Yep. We've talked about it before on the show because I used it on the Colt, especially on some of the parts that were in really rough shape with the headlight bezels, and it works amazing.
Yeah, and then I don't know how. I mean, this woman is sponsored by PB Blaster, but it was just a weird algorithm thing where I was in Instagram and the Team Sally Racing woman was like showing that product being used on some parts for one of her project cars, like literally later that day. I was like, it's so weird.
The algorithm got you.
Somehow from my eyes.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anything to do with that. I just think it's because that person is local to me, and I saw that I got the same video fed to me. So
yeah,
I think
and she's sponsored by PB Blaster. Yeah. So yeah, just a weird coincidence. And I was like, that kind of does make it stick in my brain though. I was like, I should try it out at a couple parts so I can recreate them afterwards.
I swear by that stuff. It's really good stuff. I just ordered a bunch of POR products actually, or I shouldn't say I did, but Naomi did for her Mustang. So we're going to be using some Evaporust and some of the POR stuff together. So good stuff.
So anyway, that's what I've been doing. I'm trying to get back into doing some project car stuff. My 3-year-old threw shade at me the other morning or the other weekend.
Okay.
Because he wanted to take Dada's truck, the Montero, for breakfast. And I was like, it's not ready yet. I still have it, it's still plugged in on the battery tender. I was like, I gotta like check it out, make sure it's, good to go. And he was like, everybody else drives trucks in the winter. Why don't you drive your truck in the winter? It's like, bud.
Well, tell him when he's ready to be old enough to do all the rust repair, you'll drive it in the wintertime.
Yeah. So,
Tell
you
them
know.
lots of people don't drive the trucks in the winter. Only those who don't care about their trucks.
Yeah. It's like, oh, brutal. But anyway,
Hey, that's what happens when you have a kid. You're raising a little you, so that's becomes a problem sometimes. It's probably something you would have said to your dad back in when you were 3 years old, 1,000,000 years ago. So
probably.
all good. Well, you should get that truck out first because now he wants it out.
Yeah, I'll do that probably this weekend.
It's probably the easiest to get out too. It's already outside.
It is already outside, and it's not the cover fell apart last year, so there's no cover. There's not even a cover on it. And I just gotta unplug it, and I just double check the fluids before I start it up, and make sure nothing drained out while I was sitting there, because it's just on gravel. I wouldn't see it necessarily,
Right.
or it might be caught in the skid plates.
Yeah. Well, have him help you be a part of that, and he'll probably love that, and then he can go for a drive.
Yep. Yeah, I could do that. But we have been back into racing, right? I guess we can talk about that.
Yeah, I'm trying not to go too deep in the NASCAR this week, but
It's our new obsession. Sorry.
Yeah, a little bit. But I did go to the race. The race was here in Phoenix this past week.
Yeah.
I haven't been.
You didn't even have to fly there.
Race. No, it's like 20 minutes from my house.
It's crazy.
I will say that it was a little confusing because the racetrack is not that far. It's like 20, maybe 25 minutes from the house. But once we got to the racetrack, we started following the signs for parking. And it literally took us on like a 11-mile loop around to the other side of the world, basically, to get to the parking area. So the parking area was only a mile from the racetrack, but they wouldn't let you pull in from the side we came from. They were trying to filter all the traffic coming from the same direction. But in order to do that, it went like way out and around. So it more than doubled our time to get there. So we didn't account for that. And by the time we made it to the parking lot, we're like, there's absolutely no way we're going to make it to the race in time. We're definitely not going to see the start, because the start was at 12:30. We had, it turned out to be, it was 0.9 of a mile from the walk from the car to the racetrack, which isn't terrible. But the race was scheduled to start at 12:30, and we were walking and it was like 12:23. We're like, there's absolutely no way. And we're walking, and we are within sight of the front gate. We haven't gone through the front gate yet, and the Star Spangled Banner's playing. So we stop, because everybody stops, and take your hat off and look at the flag outside. Wait for the banner, wait for the song to end, and then continue walking in, get through security. I will say that I was surprised last year going to Indy at how big of a cooler you could bring in and how much stuff you could bring in. And then I was surprised at the Daytona 24 at what you could bring into the track. And apparently that's just normal now. Because I remember before, and I haven't been to a race in a long time, and I could have sworn you couldn't bring a lot of outside stuff into the track. But they're pretty loose with it. As long as it's not alcohol or a glass container. And even at that, they didn't really dig deep. They just opened up and looked at the first layer in the cooler.
Wait, they didn't let you bring alcohol?
They don't let you bring alcohol onto the track, no.
Oh, Daytona lets you bring
any
alcohol.
beverage. Any beverage that's non-alcoholic or not in a glass container can come inside.
Oh.
And there's a cooler size limit, but a backpack, the size limit is bigger. So
everybody's wearing backpack coolers.
We're like, what if we brought our backpack cooler?
Yep.
Now, at this point, I'm a little nervous because there's not much time, and I'm already thinking I'm missing the beginning of the race. And we're going through it, I'm like, all right, well, my cooler is larger than it's supposed to be, but it's within the size of a backpack, so maybe I'll be okay. Went in there, get to the front gate, the guy opens the cooler up, and he's like, all right. He goes, well, what's in here? And I said, we got water and some seltzer and a couple of energy drinks. And he's looking at it. He goes, okay. And he closes up. He goes, wait a second. What kind of seltzer is it? And we're like, oh, it's polar. It's non-alcoholic. It's like, I'm not familiar with that one. Like, okay, well, it's not alcoholic, I promise. Okay, cool. Have a nice day. It's like, sweet.
Yeah.
We're in. We made it through.
Weird.
So we got in there with our polars. We are walking up the stairs because I was also very surprised at Daytona that there were still stairs, but there were also elevators and escalators everywhere. Phoenix does not have escalators. They do have an elevator for ADA access, obviously, but the line to use that was pretty long. So we just used the stairs. And boy, did we get a workout that day. That's a lot of stairs to go up the top of those things because we were in the section 4, which is the 4th level, but the levels aren't like a normal floor because they're grandstands. So you walk up to the 4th level and it's like you walked up 15 flights of stairs. Maybe even more, probably to like the 20th floor of a building. It's so high. But we made it in there, and as we sat down, the cars were rolling around on their first, like, behind the pace car laps.
Yep.
So we literally just made it.
Good timing.
Yep, sat down, watched the pace car laps, watched them roll through the pit lane to set their pit lane speed limiters, or they find out what the not the speed limiter, excuse me, but they have the indicator to show what rev they're at, what speed. So I saw him do that, and then pretty much right away we were off and racing. It was perfect timing. So I will say that the grandstands felt very similar when you're in the grandstands to both Indy and Daytona.
Yep.
The setup is very modern. It's not like going to the races in days of old.
Was it benches or seats?
They were seats, individual seats.
Cool.
So that was nice. I'm not sure if every section is individual seats or not, but it's funny actually because as we were walking down the stairs afterwards, Naomi pointed out to me that they have like these slats to keep the sun out of the different areas of walking, and they're aluminum slats that all had numbers on them. So I think they're the old benches from before the racetrack was redone. They are repurposed into like wallboard, which is kind of cool. So yeah, the track is very nice. All the facilities are decent. I mean, the food is expensive, obviously, but you're allowed to bring in any kind of food you want as long as it's sealed. So we brought a bag of snacks as well as our drinks. So we didn't technically have to buy anything, which is pretty good. We did wind up buying a thing of bacon cheese fries just to have some warm kind of lunch foods while we were there. But overall, it was a pretty good experience. I definitely would recommend checking out a race in Phoenix if you're here for the right time. I was able to get tickets actually at a discounted rate through StubHub because we bought them 5 days before the race. Weird. I think face value on the seats were like $80 and then we paid $60. So
yeah, because they announced a sellout.
It did sell out, but that also includes all of the speculators that buy tickets and try to resell them, right? So, but as you get close to the race, those tickets become discounted. So I was luckily able to buy them through StubHub. I'm not sure if that would work for the championship race in November.
Probably not.
That might be a little harder to get tickets to. So I got to try to make sure I get some tickets to that ahead of time. But overall,
now.
yeah, probably. Overall, it was a great experience. The parking lot, like I said, was a bit much. Wouldn't have been as big of a deal if we didn't have to go all the way around. Like next time we'll know to come in from the other side. So it won't take us quite as long. And leaving was a nightmare. But I mean, that's just how it's going to be anywhere you have a lot of people, right? So yeah, it was a good time. It was Naomi's first NASCAR event. She enjoyed herself. It was my first NASCAR event outside of Daytona or New Hampshire. I've never been to any other tracks before. So that was kind of cool. But yeah.
And the first time seeing the next gen cars in person.
My first time seeing next gen car race. Yeah, absolutely. So I haven't been to a race. I was trying to think when the last time I went was. The last time I went to Daytona for NASCAR was 1996. And the last time I'd been at New Hampshire was probably I gotta figure 2001 ish.
Was that with
Maybe
me?
2000. Did we go together once? I was trying to remember.
So,
if we did.
yes, we went in 2001. The
Okay.
September race was canceled because this is September 11th. It was like the weekend after.
Okay.
And then they postponed it to the Friday after Thanksgiving. And then I somehow got tickets to it, and you and I went. We used my mom's Sable wagon, and it was like a really nice day for the day after Thanksgiving.
That feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, but it was 2001.
Okay,
because
so yeah,
Dale
that's the
Earnhardt
last.
died.
That's the last NASCAR event I've been to. Then,
yeah.
So it's been a while.
I've got
it's been some time.
I've got film pictures from it somewhere, and now I'm going to go look for them after the podcast. I think, if I remember right, Jeff Gordon won the race. We could just look it up, but I'm pretty sure he won that
2001,
race.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
He was winning everything in 2001.
And I'm pretty sure he won, and then during his victory lap, people were throwing beers at him.
And that's probably why you
checks
can't
out.
bring beer to Phoenix. Yeah.
Wow. That I thought you would have been. I went to one with Stephanie maybe around 09, 010. Some reason we got free tickets. I think this was when New Hampshire still had 2 races. They had to get rid of one because they weren't filling them anymore.
So the 2001 New Hampshire 300 was won by a driver who no longer drives and a manufacturer that doesn't even exist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Tony Stewart in a Pontiac Grand Prix.
Which race was that though? Because was that the July one or the?
There was no July race in 2001. There was only November.
Oh, so it was Tony Stewart.
Yep. Yep. It was supposed to be September 13th, so obviously that was canceled.
Yep.
Yeah. Tony Stewart, Mark Martin, Jeff Burton. That was. Oh, hold on. Wait a second. That's practice. Oh, forget it.
Yeah.
You were close on the winner. It was a Gordon, but not a Jeff.
Okay.
It was Robbie Gordon.
Really?
Yep. Gordon Marlin Labonte. Chevy Dodge Pontiac.
Interesting, because yeah, weird. Yeah. I mean, I already bought tickets for. I think I may have talked about this to New Hampshire this year, so
okay,
I'm into it. Because I think, well, like on TV, you kind of get a sense of what they sound like. The cars sound really good in person.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they're quite loud. We're in. I don't know how it was at Daytona because you guys were up pretty high. It might not have been too bad, but
they're pretty loud.
In Phoenix, in a small 1 mile track.
Yeah,
it was brutal. It was definitely peaking our eardrums. We did forget to bring our earplugs.
Oh, yeah.
So we unfortunately had to purchase some there because it was that loud.
Yeah, they're a lot louder in the smaller tracks. New Hampshire.
Yeah, it was loud.
It's funny to me that Phoenix is a 1 mile track. It looks far bigger on TV than being a 1 mile track.
So my memories of New Hampshire,
because my frame of reference, a 1 mile track, New Hampshire doesn't feel that big anymore when I go there.
Right. The big difference at Phoenix is they have no track limits.
Yeah, the dog leg.
Yeah, you can go as low as you want there. So at that point in the track, they're 6-7 cars wide sometimes.
Yeah,
and that
really
makes
crazy.
the whole track. That makes the whole track seem bigger. So
yeah.
But anyway, it was definitely a cool time. Christopher Bell was the winner. Did not see that coming the whole race. With maybe halfway through the last stage, he was in like 21st, and nobody was paying attention to him. And he was picking off car after car after car.
Yeah.
Every single lap. He had a fast race car. Yeah. And by the end of the race, I mean, second place was behind him by like 6 seconds.
Yeah. So, his car got switched on. They nailed the setup, and it just, a lot of the Toyotas were fast. His was the fastest.
Yeah, which is funny because Toyota led like something like 238 laps of the 312.
Yeah.
But Toyota, previously to that, the last 4 events had led a total of 13 laps there. So
Yeah.
obviously they figured something out. Also, it was bothering me because they kept calling it the Shriners Children's 500.
Yes.
And it's a 1 mile track with 312 laps. And I was like, well, that doesn't equal 500.
Yeah.
But apparently the reason it's 312 laps is because 312 laps at the exact length of the track equals 500 kilometers.
Weird.
Yeah. So it was a very European race, Andrew. It was,
Kilometer.
yeah, yes. Typical NASCAR fan is like, what? There's 200 miles to go. What are we doing to stop in this race? But no, it was cool. It was cool. Most of the race, I thought actually it was going to be Hamlin or Reddick that were going to win.
Yeah.
They were the top cars for most of the day. Towards the end, Reddick kind of fell off, and Hamlin just crashed all on his own. So
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, there
it
was
odd.
like, and then with the pit strategy, there wasn't a lot of cautions during part of the race.
No, it was a very,
kinda,
very clean race. In fact, the whole
Yeah,
second stage went clean the whole time.
yeah, it got kind of jumbled with the green flag pit stops. I mean, this is what makes it interesting. Just reading on the internet, people talking about F1, and they're like, "Oh, it was really interesting to watch the mid-pack stuff." And you're like, "Yeah, okay, that feels like cope," because it's like,
Yeah.
one driver, one team literally drives away with every race. I didn't even watch the race
Yep.
this weekend. I can tell you who won. Like,
Oh yeah. I was actually. I was talking about a different event I went to, but my friend who I went to the event with is our friend Ron, who's been on the show here before. He's a big F1 guy, and I was like, we were out and about during the time the F1 race is on. He's like, oh, I make sure I don't check my social media, and I was like, why? So you can't see how much Max Verstappen won by? Like, that's what's gonna happen. And he's like, yeah, honestly. But
yeah, I'd watch it if the racing was better, because that's
Yep.
why I'm into NASCAR. Like, the racing is really good. There's lead
yeah,
changes.
the mid pack stuff is really fun. They keep track of, which I didn't realize until this week, but they keep track of every pass in the race, and there's something like 2,900 passes during this race, and there were 13 passes for the lead during the race too, which
Yeah.
is pretty good. But
And-
talking about mid pack stuff and being there in person, watching the mid pack battles is great.
It's
'cause you'll
cooler.
you'll watch 2 cars side by side for 10, 15 laps and watch them, changing the line and trying to figure out how to get around the car in front of
Yep.
them, or how to figure out how to get not just next to him, but by them. And you can't see that on TV because TV can't
Yeah.
play that one battle for 15 laps straight, because that's not what the
Well-
sponsors want to see.
Yeah, what they're not doing a good job about is like following guys that are moving up the pack quickly and making
And that's the
passes.
Christopher Bell thing this
Yeah.
past race. Like, I guess I listen to Denny Hamlin's podcast every week now because I'm fully into it. And he was talking about how fans were complaining this race was boring. And he's like, well, the race wasn't boring. If you thought the race was boring, it's because A, you weren't there, and B, TV coverage wasn't correct. He's like, because how boring can it be to watch Christopher Bell go from 21st to the lead,
He literally
and
knifed
fight his
like-
way?
Yeah.
Fight his way through the pack the whole way. How can that be boring? How can a race be boring that has 13 lead changes? How can a race be boring that has 2,900 passes? It wasn't a boring race because we were just coming off of an Atlanta finish that was the closest 3-car finish in motorsports history. Guess what, folks? That doesn't happen every week. Like, sometimes what's interesting is a guy being able to win by 6 seconds, because guess what? Next week, somebody else has got to figure it out. So I thought that was kind of an interesting point. One more quick thing about NASCAR before we move on. The tire was new this race too, because one of the things they've been talking about is the fact that tires don't have any fall off. And the strategy of new tire versus old tire is pretty much was gone away for the first part of the season, where you could run a tire with 50, 60 laps and be competitive with a guy with fresh tires. So Goodyear was tasked with trying to create a tire that would last as long as this tire, but degrade faster so that pit strategy became more important like it used to be. So almost like the tires are too good.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
kind of
make the tires
interesting how that
good, but
happens.
not that good.
But you could see that when Truex was out leading, he'd stayed out and his tires
Yeah.
fell off, and
Yep.
that was it.
And Truex made a very aggressive pit choice.
Yep.
Oh, his plan was, I'm going to stay out. I'm in the lead. If we get a yellow,
Oh, yeah.
I'll be good because everybody's going to come to pit.
Mhm.
But he never got his yellow, and he was going to run out of gas. So he had to pit, and he gave up that big lead.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, that was NASCAR this week.
yep, it was good.
Coming up this weekend, another NASCAR race, Bristol. Also, so this is Casual Motorsports Enjoyers. Sebring. So, sports car
That's
racing is
this week?
back. That is this weekend.
Excellent.
Saturday.
That's the 12
Yep.
hour.
12 hours.
Very good.
Again, that's another series to watch if you want really good racing, is to watch IMSA.
Yeah. I watched, not live, but I watched the recap afterwards of this past weekend's race, which was St. Petersburg, I think.
Yeah, IndyCar. That was,
No, IMSA was there too.
I believe, just like the lower tier, like Continental Challenge cars.
Yeah, it was the not
Was-
GT whatever.
Not GT,
It was.
LM, GTD, whatever, not GTP.
Right, it was
Because they're all
LMP2
at
cars.
Sebring practicing.
Yeah, it was LMP2 cars and GSX, I think they call it now. Or GTX. I don't know. But anyway, it was also good racing. It was a good weekend. So yeah, good stuff to look forward to. I'm looking forward to the 12 hour. I don't know that I'll be able to watch the whole race, but I'll definitely catch as much of it as I can. So good times. Also, this past weekend, we stick with events. I had a very car event weekend. Was
one more thing I want to talk
Sure.
about. The IndyCar race was decent. I started watching that.
Okay.
Wasn't a lot of passing, but there was some passing. But it was interesting. Joseph Newgarden, who won in the Penske Porsche, won the IndyCar race.
Oh, excellent.
So I've been
Yeah,
trying
he
to
won
watch.
Daytona, right?
He won, yeah, with the Penske Porsche,
Very cool.
which they also won in the Middle East. I think the Qatar Grand Prix, which is a WEC race.
Interesting. Yeah, he's good. He's a former Indy 500 champ too.
Yes.
So very cool. Other events this weekend. So I've obviously been to Barrett Jackson and all the big car auctions here in town. One I had never been to, which happens a little bit later after Barrett Jackson, is Mecum. And Mecum was here this past weekend. So I managed to get a set of tickets for Mecum. And I went with actually the guy we was talking about, because we were talking about the story a minute ago, with Ron, to Mecum this past weekend. And it was interesting to compare that to a Barrett Jackson.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same.
Interesting.
Mecum on television is huge. Mecum on TV looks like it's Barrett Jackson. Mecum in person is much more about the cars and not the pomp and circumstance of Barrett Jackson. And it is significantly smaller. I don't know the car count difference. I probably should have looked it up before. But we got there Saturday, which is the last day of the event. It's also one of the premier days because it's a weekend. The rest of the event takes place, during the week. And we didn't get there super early. It was like 9 a.m. I figured it'd be packed already. There was almost no cars in the parking lot. We were able to pretty much walk right in and have almost nobody around us. It was kind of weird. The way they have it set up, it's at State Farm Stadium, which is where the Arizona Cardinals play football. So it's in a football stadium. And I'm sure most people listening have been to some sort of stadium where you have like the concourse level, which is, mid-height, and it has all the vending and all the the beer and soda and food vendors and everything are at that level. So it kind of runs like a ring around the middle of the stadium up high. And as you walked at the entire length of the stadium all the way around was cars backed in towards the field, which is kind of cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
And then you overlooked the field down below, which was covered in the, the premier vehicles of the event. So the star cars of the event, the ones that don't have to stay outside under tents, the ones that get to stay inside. the low mile Corvette collection, and there was a Ferrari F40 in there, and for some reason somebody was selling a Cybertruck already in there, and so all the cars that are going to bring the press are kind of the ones that are inside. But yeah, one of the big things at Barrett-Jackson is they have that whole center, like manufacturers midway. We walk in and it's all like GM has a booth, GM Performance has a booth, Toyota has a booth, Ford has a booth. All the manufacturers have their own booth, almost like it's a auto show. And then you get to the middle of Barrett-Jackson and there's all the vendors, and there are tons of vendors. You can buy anything at Barrett-Jackson, from a garage wall art hanging to a helicopter, to oddly a mattress. Like, I don't know who's buying these things at Barrett-Jackson, but they're all there. So again, not much of that at Beacom. There was a small little area for vendors. They're mostly automotive related, which makes sense. I didn't even see like a diecast vendor, which is interesting because it's like 5 of them at Barrett. So the whole thing is much smaller. It feels much more grassroots. Obviously, the money is still ridiculous just because it's a car auction and it's on TV and people like to spend money on television. But the access there is really good. If you want to go to an auction and kind of see behind the scenes of how it works, I would go to a Mecum show versus a Barrett-Jackson show, because we pretty much walked everywhere and we were only told to leave an area one time. So, and that was the area where the sold cars that all the paperwork is done and they're sitting waiting to be picked up are. That was the only place we couldn't go. So it was pretty neat just to kind of be able to walk around and not have to worry about not having the access, not seeing what you wanted to see, not having the crazy amount of people you have at Barrett, because Barrett is, for lack of a better word, Barrett is a zoo. And this is not a zoo. And ultimately, a one-day ticket for Barrett-Jackson on a Saturday is $100 for a spectator. At Mecum, it was $30. I managed to get a couple of tickets I didn't have to pay for, so that was even better. But if I had paid $30, the amount of cool cars that were in there and what the show provided, I wouldn't have felt gypped for $30. Whereas Barrett-Jackson for $100 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I would not pay $100 to go see Barrett-Jackson. I can tell you that right now.
Mm-mm.
So the earlier days in Barrett-Jackson are cheaper, but the later days, the bigger days with the more, exciting, I guess, cars to see go across the block it's like $100 ticket, which is absurdity. So, but yeah, no, it was a good show. I'd recommend going to one of those too. So anyway, that's all. That was my car weekend. I did Mecum Saturday morning. Saturday night we did Pabs, and then Sunday was the NASCAR race. So tons of car stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot of car stuff.
Yeah. A little burnt out by Monday, I'll tell you that much. It was a tough morning going to work. And we don't even observe daylight savings time here. It was just a busy weekend. So anyway, got any project car stuff, Andrew?
No, not that I didn't cover earlier. I'm trying to start some project car stuff, hopefully soon. Okay. Maybe some night this week or some night this weekend. Trying to get ahead of it, so I can start it, because we've discussed we have a local New England Forenoon Cup, I think, coming up in April. I'd like to bring the Gallant, so I want to figure out what's wrong with it.
Yeah, you should probably get on that now, because we're already in mid-March.
That is correct, yes. So, but do you have any project updates?
Yes, actually I do. So, did we talk about the Starion last week?
I think a little bit.
We talked about eating a water pump?
No. I don't think you had it running yet. You were just talked about you had you had an indecent proposal made to you.
Yes, indecent proposal to sell the car, which is still on the table. But my plan, no, you know what? I think I did talk about it. I'll cover it real fast. Anyway, I got the car started. Was making a horrible noise. I shut it down, went under the hood, and realized the water pump was about to fall apart. So obviously the bearings inside the water pump were shot. And I think I did talk about it last week because I remember saying I ordered the parts. They'll be here this weekend, and I'll be able to put the car together and have it ready for next week. So you'll be able to have an update next week. The car is running. Unfortunately, that would have required me to click checkout.
Oh,
Yeah. So when the part didn't come on the day I expected the part to come, I went and checked my order, and it was still sitting in the shopping cart. So the part, unfortunately, did not make it here. The part is here as of maybe, I think, last night it came. So the part is here now. I have not done it yet, but now I will say this again. For next episode, the Starion should be running. Yeah, I felt like a big dummy. I was sitting here on Monday at work, all excited because I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it Monday right after work. I'll get it ready so I can talk about it on podcast. And then the part never showed up. And I was like, that's weird. And I searched my email for the order number and I couldn't find it. And I was like, that's weird. And I went back to the website I ordered it from and it was sitting there in my cart. So big bummer on that one. But the big update is, did I talk about, I think I did, the crank on the Mustang engine?
no.
So we put the Mustang parts in our shed for Christmas
Yes.
because we host Christmas here
Yes.
and we wanted everything off the porch.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we had a massive rainstorm and our shed, which does not leak, developed a leak.
Oh.
And it leaked all over the crank for our engine.
Oh. And you didn't spray it down with any WD first or anything.
It was sprayed down, but it wasn't enough to sit in a water-filled bag because we sprayed it with oil and then put it in a trash bag to keep it nice.
Oily.
And then the water came in the shed and absolutely destroyed the crank. We brought it to a machine shop and they were like, absolutely not. We can't do anything with this. It's been ground once before and we can't bring this back.
How ironic for such a dry climate.
I'm saying I managed to ruin a car with rust here in Arizona. So that was a bit of a setback. So we've been doing some digging. The engine that we got, we've been on the fence about because we learned that it was bored 60 over, which is at the limit to beyond the limit for a 302, we've been told. For a street car, it would probably be okay, but we were advised not to put any money into it. Just put it back together with what we had and hope for the best. That being said, I still wanted to put a set of heads on it because I wanted pre-74 heads because I didn't want a smog setup on the car. So now I would have to buy heads and try to find a crank that we could use for this engine. So now we're looking at probably over $1,000.
Yeah.
In parts. And I was a little frustrated. And I was looking on the internet and I was like, oh man, that's weird. I can literally buy an engine from O'Reilly's for this thing.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
Going back and forth with that, all the parts stores list an engine manufacturer that makes engines for them. They're different. And there are positives and negatives on the reviews. And we're going back and forth. And an engine from like an O'Reilly's or an AutoZone is $2,000.
Right.
That's pretty cheap. That's for a long
Yeah.
block. So it's basically the assembled bottom end with heads on it. No valve cover, no intake manifold, no oil pan.
Right.
So I'm like, well, there must be other ones out there. So we started looking, and you can spend a lot of money. You know, you can spend $5,000 or $6,000.
You could spend up to like $10,000.
Okay, I'm just saying
Ford performance thing, but
a reasonable number. I could go to a place called Blueprint Engines and buy a 400 horsepower 302 off the shelf for $4,500.
Yeah.
That's also not terribly expensive. But we were doing a bunch of research, and actually Naomi found this shop that's based out of, I think, Seattle, somewhere in Washington. Maybe, anyway, somewhere in Washington, called S&J Engines. And they have one of the best reputations on the internet for rebuilding engines, and they ship nationwide. So
there you go.
she contacted them. They are sending us she ordered it today. It's going to take 4 to 5 weeks to be completed and sent our way. But it will be a correct engine, block, and cylinder heads for a 1968 Mustang with the J VIN code. So that at the end of the day, everything will match. It won't be matching numbers because it's a different engine, but it will match castings for what would have come in the car brand new. It's a long block that's all freshened, all assembled, and they test them on this machine when they're done. They don't actually run them, but they simulate running them. They put like an adapter where the oil pickup goes, and they run oil through them, and they turn them with an electric motor. They did the brake-in on it. They check the compression of it, and they have a dye in the oil that runs through it, and they run a UV or whatever kind of blue light test it is to make sure there's no cracks, make sure oil's going everywhere it's supposed to go. They make sure the oil pressure is correct. They make sure that there's some other words they use too that I can't think of top of my head right now, but all different tests they show them going through it, and every engine gets that test. It costs the same money as an O'Reilly's engine.
Yeah.
So it's, I think, $1,900 plus $300 in freight to get it here.
That's cheap.
So for $2,300, if I was going to spend $1,000 in parts for a questionable engine, this is the right way to go. And on top of all of that, it comes with a 7-year warranty.
Oh, that's really good.
Right. So why wouldn't I do that at this point? So why wouldn't we do this? So Naomi pulled the plug this afternoon, talked to the guy up there, had the engine ordered. Like I said, should be here in 4 to 5 weeks. So at that point, we'll hopefully have the engine bay ready to put the engine in. So the POR products and some some chassis black for under the hood. Also, the engine's going to come painted in the correct forward blue, which would not happen from an O'Reilly's.
Oh, well, there you go. That you just clean up your valve covers, put them on.
We're going to clean up and paint the valve covers and the oil pan that we have with fresh forward engine blue. Put them on. I already bought an intake manifold for the other engine, which obviously it'll work the same as this one. It's just a normal 4-barrel, Edelbrock style intake manifold. So,
but then you can get your sniper kit and the tank that goes with it.
We already have the sniper. The only thing we need to buy is the tank. Yep. So the last big purchase for the car will be the gas tank, which Holley makes one that goes with their sniper.
Yep.
That already has a return built into it, has the correct fuel pump in it, and that tank all set up with the pump included is $600.
Yeah.
So for $3,000 more total, including the engine, we'll have the car pretty much running.
Yeah. Hopefully. You got to weld in O2 sensors or the the bungs to put the O2
So
sensors
I'll have to weld in bungs onto the bottoms of the car. Actually has long tube headers in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll go at the bottom of those. So
yep.
Or wherever they suggest they go according to the kit. But yes, it will need O2 sensors. But this is a huge step for the car. We've been kind of going back and forth about this engine for a while. The positives and negatives of fixing this 60 over motor, trying to find another motor. The problem is that every used 302 for a pre 5-liter style, not the later Mustang style, the one that's I think it's 76 and down or 74 and down, whatever year it is and down. Unknown condition engines are $1,000 plus. So this just seems like a no-brainer at this point.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting around trying to find the right thing, and then you never know what you're getting. And this is a company that's been around for 45 years, 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. You can't really go wrong.
Yeah, just because in my world of Japanese stuff, this doesn't exist, I wouldn't have thought to look for this.
Right. Right. Well, it does. So
Yeah.
I'm happy with
Yeah,
it.
that'll work.
Yep.
Yeah, then you can just get it running. And then once
Yeah.
it's running, you'll be more motivated to put new tires on it. And
Well, it needs new tires before it runs anywhere. That's
no, that's what I say. Once it's running in the driveway, you have the engine installed and it's running. You're
Yep.
like, all right, now this feels like we're over the hill, and you can put tires on it and like go through the brakes.
we have a bunch of um, suspension and brake parts to put in the car already too. So we can
Yeah.
do that all right now as we're going along.
Sure. I would. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, sometimes you get it running. It's like, all right, now I'm motivated because it's running. It's
Yep.
like you're over that hump, and it's like easier to do stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, does it have a radiator still in it?
It does. Not sure.
Yeah, send that out.
Yeah, I thought that it will at least be sent out and record.
Yeah.
I don't know how good or bad it is, but yeah, it
Yeah.
still needs some stuff. Like we'll need, some of the front engine stuff. We'll buy a starter, we'll buy an alternator, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, the dressing kit you got to do.
yep.
Um,
Yeah, we'll make it good.
and pulleys and flows.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
You can yeah, but once it's running, you can do that suspension stuff. Get it driving. Make sure it's driving the way you want it, and then you can like tackle the AC after.
Correct. Yeah, all that will be down the road. But
Yeah, because it's like you don't need the AC to drive the car. You can get it going, shake it down, make sure everything else is good, and then the icing on the cake is to fix the AC.
yeah. It's funny, we're sitting here talking about this, and I was curious about other vehicles. Like, I just picked the common one here. For an 80 Toyota pickup, they have an engine in stock.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So they do have it for import stuff.
there you go.
But it's crazy. They're the same money. It's $1,900.
Yeah, that's still not that bad for an engine.
No, it's really not. I was hoping half the cylinders would be half the money, right?
Yeah.
Well, interesting. It's cool that it exists. This American car stuff is obviously very different than, I looked. They don't have a 4G63 on the shelf. So
No.
even if they did, I don't know that I'd want to buy it from this kind of a place for something like that. But who knows? So anyway, so that's exciting. It's ordered. It's on the way. That's a huge step towards getting the car drivable. Hopefully our transmission's good.
Oh yeah.
But
Is it automatic? No, it's manual.
no, it's a factory 4-speed car.
Yeah,
So
it's probably fine.
it doesn't have one. We picked one up.
Oh, right, because somebody stole the whole drivetrain out of it. I thought they left
Correct.
the transmission.
Yeah, nope.
Uh,
We bought a transmission. So
I mean,
interesting. The engine for my Corolla is $1,600.
I mean, there's like, I don't know. Those transmissions aren't too fragile. You didn't
No,
buy
it
it out of
should-
a
it should
drag
be
truck,
fine.
so
No, we bought it out of a truck. It was just upgrading. And if I remember correctly, we bought a 5-speed. So
yeah. Do you have to change the drive shaft?
we have to buy a drive shaft.
Okay.
There's not one in the car, so it doesn't matter. So we can't order that until we get the whole engine and trans in the car and measure
Yep.
up how everything is. So
There's probably you probably don't have to even order it. Maybe there's probably shops in the area that make them because you have so many
Yes.
old cars around there.
yep, nope. There's a drive shaft shop in town. A pretty well known one. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's definitely the way to go. I definitely, that's my advice is like put the engine in there, hook it up, fire that thing up. Once you hear it running, you're like, all right, now we're going to want to do everything else.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's absolutely no question.
So, don't try not to go too much down while you're in there if you don't need to.
We'll see. It's gonna be
tricky.
It's gonna be tricky because the problem is the car sat for so long.
It did sit for a long time.
I mean, it sat in the desert for a long time. So, while you're in there, like, there's not much we're not gonna be replacing.
Yeah.
So I have a new steering box. I have inner and outer tie rods, control arms, springs. I have all that stuff.
That stuff you can do. That's easier to do without the engine in there.
That's all stuff we're going to start doing the next few weeks. We're going to start working on it.
So, yeah, you could do that.
I have new leaf springs. I have new shocks. The only thing we're not going to be replacing in the drive line of the vehicle is the rear end. So I'm just going to drain and fill that with some fresh fluid. There's not much that we're going to not be touching. The interior is trashed from sitting in the desert for 20 years.
Let it roll, but for now, get the car running.
That's so we talk about different kinds of restorations all the time, Andrew, right? And you watch these things on TV where they blow the car down to a bare shell and it never gets put back. It gets put back together in a week or two.
Well, yeah.
In real life, you blow the car. In real life, you blow the car down to a bare shell and it never gets finished.
Or it takes 20 years.
Right. So it's important not to do that. We're not building a rotisserie restored show car here. We're just looking for making the car run and drive and be usable. So I'm going to we're going to complete what I would consider to be a sympathetic restoration and a rolling restoration, where we're going to get the car running. While we're under the hood, we're going to repaint everything. We're going to make it all look fresh. We're going to put the new engine in it. We're going to get it running. We're going to do all of the suspension that we have to do to make it safe to drive, because I wouldn't want to drive it with the brake hoses that are in it now, or the stuff that's in it, or the tire rods that are in it now, or ball joints that are in it now. I want to place all that stuff now. New tires on the car. Then once the car runs and drives and moves in its own power, if she wants to buy a new carpet kit 1 month, we take all the seats out, put a carpet kit in. Then she has the budget
dynamite
to buy
down or something.
Then she has the budget to buy some new door panels. The beauty of it is it's a Mustang. Yeah. These cars are incredibly simple, and they are incredibly easy to get parts for. So all that stuff can be done piecemeal as we go along. It doesn't need to be done all at once.
Yeah,
getting the car up and running the way it is, with roach paint and a roached interior, but a fresh motor and fresh brakes, will be huge. And we can go to, our local car event with it and be proud of what we've accomplished without, looking like an old crap can.
Well, that's my advice, is that you get it running and driving, because then it's like not overwhelming that you've taken too many things apart.
Right.
And then it's like your motivation is now, I've got this running and driving car. Now I can make it even better.
Yep.
So then you do a little bit at a time.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly what the plan is. So, unfortunately, I can't convince her to change the wheels, but hey, here we are. So,
I think they're kind of cool. So, I'm
not my style.
They're on the wheels.
They're just not my style.
They fit it, though.
They're a Western turbine style for
they fit
anybody who's
it's
wondering.
Cool.
No, they're cool, and they're...
You gonna do white letters out?
They mean a lot to her. Probably not do white letters out at first.
I need some BFG radial TAs on there.
Have you priced out BFG radial TAs lately, Andrew?
They're expensive?
Yes.
It's like the oldest tire possible.
Yeah, they are not cheap right now.
What?
So, hey, I'm telling you.
They more than $600 for a set of 4?
Yes.
What?
Yep.
For like 15-inch tires?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep. So here they are on Tire Rack, 15-inch BFG radial TA in a 245/60/15. That's probably about right.
Yeah, sounds about right.
$208 each.
What?
Yep. Yeah, they're not cheap. I wanted to buy them for the Camaro and I didn't.
Yeah.
So
I think they look pretty boss with white letters out, but
listen, they're very cool. There's a reason everybody runs them, but I think that in the plans of a budget build here, we've already broken the bank with engines and fuel injection and all this other parts to put everything together. I think that we'll go a little cheaper than tires to start. We'll get a set of $60 a piece all seasons to get us around town first.
Mucho machos.
Yeah, or Nexans or whatever I have on the Colt that are fine. So they'll get us through, and then if we want to step it up to a BFT radial TA, eventually we can.
Well, it's annoying because like a radial TA is really just an all-season tire. It's not like
It's nothing
it's
fancy.
not like some super high-performance tire.
You're buying it for the name at that point, right?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there are 400 treadwear, which is strange. I figured they'd be more than that. So.
Yeah, that's like, but that's not like I wouldn't define that as a sticky tire. Like there's no.
No, but it's not a 600 or a 700 all season. Like it's not. So it's basically it's a tire that costs a lot of money, is an all season that's not good in the snow, and doesn't have a long life.
Yeah.
So what am I paying for here?
Yeah, some mucho machos and a stencil. You're right. Be a
Right.
rich.
Yeah, I'm definitely not gonna do that either. But I've
like-
honestly,
What were those fake like product stickers? It'd be like TF Badwich or something.
right? Yeah, DF Bad Rich.
you could do light year tires.
See, there you go. Not doing any of that though. I'm just gonna put some black walls on it and call it a day. Probably, like I said, probably some Nexans or whatever the equivalent is now, because I bought a set of those for the Colt and they're fine. And honestly, like I've said this before, and I've gotten some flack for it from you and others. The worst Chinese tire now is better than the best tire you could have bought in 1968. So I'll live with it.
Yes, the car will be overtired. You should
Regardless,
buy vintage NOS 1968 tires.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's going to have a set of whatever we can get. So I'm of the thought process that the worst tire now is better than the best tire at that time. So, and I think it's very true. Especially since 1968, it would have been a bias ply. It would have been absolutely terrible. So we'll put a decent
some
set
NASCAR slick takeoffs. Those tires last a long time, apparently.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Only from the first 3 races of the season, though. So I just need something that can harness all, let's say, 230 horsepower.
Yeah.
So the cars were rated 200. The 4-barrel Mustangs were rated 230 horsepower new. So figure a fresh rebuild with modern fuel injection and the headers on it, probably about that. So
yeah,
I'll be fine with that, which is plenty for the car that weighs probably 2,800 pounds.
Yeah.
So
I call this the ranch. It's where I keep all the ponies.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Longtime car people will remember that from Conan O'Brien and his green Taurus SHO.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, that's the project car update for the week, Andrew. It's a pretty big one, actually. So
that is a pretty big one.
Haven't really turned a wrench, but spent a ton of money and got some good parts coming. I also did clean the garage again to get ready for the next project, which will be that Starion water pump, because the garage is a disaster from taking apart the Eclipse, which also is in the works. So gotta get back on it.
All right. I don't know. Anything else?
I got nothing else.
Yeah, that's a pretty good episode.
I think so.
We were dark for a little bit. I was traveling. I actually drove a new Mustang. I should talk about that.
Okay.
I drove I had a rental auto off topic rental car update.
Yes.
I didn't talk about, we had a Tahoe.
Yeah, the Escalade too. Yeah. Oh, Tahoe. Sorry.
Not a Tahoe. What's the GMC one? Yukon.
Yes.
Same thing. But I had that in Florida. That thing was sweet. That's probably like a $60,000 truck.
Probably more than that.
Yeah, I get it. I was like, I get why people drive these things. It was comfortable.
Well, it's like
was
your
like-
Montero that you love, but new and nice.
Oh yeah, I mean, it rode super nice. It had all the bells and whistles. What's a little strange? So this and the Mustang had it. I think it's like a new car design thing. Is like the total like blackout interior. I don't really love it.
The gloss
It's like-
black stuff.
The gloss black stuff, but also like all the interior finishes are basically black. Like not that 90s grayish black, like true black.
Hmm.
Including the headliner is
So
like
was it
black.
was it a Denali or was it a regular Yukon?
A Yukon.
Okay. So you were pretty close. If you had a 5.3 V8, I assume
Probably.
it starts at 58.2.
Yeah, I bet. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
But, it was
That's probably the rental spec. There's a 3-liter diesel, a 5.3 V8, and a 6.2 V8. I'm sure it
no,
wasn't
it's
a diesel.
definitely this is definitely the 5.3 V8.
Yeah.
It had pickup, but it wasn't like fast.
Sure.
What was weird, like and now they're like independent in the rear. They're not like a live axle.
Yeah, no, they're coil
Um,
spring independent. They're like cars.
It was raining a little bit, and I floored it on the highway, and it like stepped sideways on me. I was like, whoa, okay, wasn't expecting that. So it did have some torque.
Sports car.
Yeah. So anyway, I was traveling for work, and I get to the Hertz counter, and you go pick out what you want, and it was like a bunch of GM SUVs, like some Buick stuff. I was like, I don't really want those. And there was a white Mustang sitting there. I was like, oh, it's only me. I
Sure.
don't need to cart any coworkers around, so I'll take this Mustang. It's probably an EcoBoost. Sure enough, it was. It was. I don't know, it must have been a 22 or 23. It had like 27,000 miles on it.
In rental car miles, it's 127.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially on a Mustang.
it smelled like weed, and then the deodorizer they used to make it not smell like weed.
Right. So it smelled like flowery weed.
Yeah, whatever that smell is, it's the same as like it's the same thing that they'll spray in like a hotel room to like get rid of the cigarette smoke when somebody smokes in a non-smoking hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like it would just smell gross inside. But I don't know. The automatic was terrible.
It's 10 speed.
I think so. It felt like a 10-speed. Rode like a skateboard. Felt super slow. Like it was really loud.
The 4-cylinder Mustangs are very loud. I don't understand why they're so loud because they don't sound good either.
No. In sport mode, it was like better because it like held gears longer. But I'd be driving along at like 40. These are like winding back roads, like 45, 50. And it would like get stuck in a lower gear if I wasn't in sport mode and just like lug the engine, which sounded even worse. And it was just like, it like felt slower than my Golf.
It shouldn't have been too slow. It's 310 horsepower.
It did not feel that fast at all. Maybe it just doesn't have torque or something. I don't know. Or it's a heavy car. It just was like, nah, this is not that great. The size of it, I liked. I was like, man, this would be a cool car if it was a GT and a manual.
I wonder if the 2.3 turbo with a manual is also okay.
I bet it's a lot better. The transmission was really what was holding this car back. I'm sure the 2.3 with a manual is really fun, but with an automatic, it was awful. It felt, I would have rather have had the Rogue with the turbo and the CVT.
Oof, that's not good.
That's a better car, a better rental car.
Okay.
Like if we're
mean,
rating rental
for-
cars, the Yukon is my peak, and my favorites are the Rogue.
Ugh, what have we become, Andrew?
I mean, that's the way. I mean, I get rental cars a lot, so let's review rental cars.
I will say though that I would like to drive the 4-cylinder 6-speed car because
sure.
it's really honestly kind of a bargain in new car world. in a world where an average new car is what, 53 grand now or something like that.
Yes.
So a base turbo Mustang, because there is no more 6-cylinders. The base is the 2, 3, 4-cylinder.
Yep.
A base turbo Mustang with a stick is 30 grand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that should be a bargain. Like that's 315 horsepower manual transmission rear wheel drive coupe for $30,000. That seems like a good deal.
Yeah. The newest Haggerty magazine this month has an article about all of the manual sports cars on sale. They tried to drive all of them at once. So it was
Okay.
like the BRZ, the Miata, Mustang GT. They characterize that sports car, the Corolla GR, and I think that was it. It might have been
Sad
the
stories.
Acura Type S, the
Sure.
sedan.
Yeah, the Integra.
Yeah, maybe it was an Integra.
I think the Integra is the only one with a manual right now.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that would make
So
sense.
that was a pretty cool article. But
I
based-
did just get the magazine. I have not opened it yet. So
it would be, on principle, I kind of want a BRZ, but I also, if I had this type of money, a Mustang
What about
GT would also be
Corolla?
nice.
Yeah.
And I would also buy a Corolla. Like it's similar. It's like very close in price to the Mustang.
Yep.
I think it's like a $10,000 difference, which
I think it's more hour speed too.
it is, but I haven't owned a manual transmission V8 rear-wheel drive American car. So
Yeah. I mean, I have only ever had a 60s. I never had a modern version of it, so is what it is.
I
really
think the
like
new Mustang
Corolla.
looks really good too. So
I actually
something
had
I would be.
an interesting interaction with he was wearing a Vietnam veteran hat, so he's got to be his 70s.
Yeah.
I was stopping at the local grocery store in my Corolla wagon.
Yeah.
And I came out, and there was the new body style Corolla was parked next to me.
Yep.
And I noticed that it had wheels on it, and it was low.
Not the GR.
No, just a regular Corolla.
Yeah.
And a guy got out of it when I walked back to my car, and he was all excited. This guy, like I said, he's probably his mid, maybe even late 70s. He's all excited to talk about my Corolla. I was like, oh, okay. So I chatted with him for a couple of minutes, and then he was telling me about his car. And he said he bought it because he found out it was the last year they were going to offer the manual without getting into the GR. And then he was all excited because he had an intake and exhaust and springs and wheels. And I was like,
Nice.
All right, I'm into it. And then when he left, he kind of goosed it leaving the parking lot because as a young teenage driver like himself would. And actually, it sounded really good. And I was like, man,
Is that
I can
like
see
the
myself driving
little
that.
hatchback one?
Little hatchback, yeah.
They are a good looking little car.
Yep. So it was a dark blue color.
Yeah.
I would have
The
gone
non-GR.
a little more subtle on the exhaust because it had 4 big chrome tips.
Yeah.
But whatever. The car sounded cool. It looked cool. There was a time period where I was like, before I took this new job, I was considering purchasing a normal daily. When I was originally selling the Eclipse before I blew it up, and I was going to buy a normal everyday daily, I was considering buying one of those. And then they announced no more manual. So I was like, oh, okay. Boo, I don't want one now. Because they were like 24 grand. So,
yeah.
But you can't get one with a manual now. So, big old bummer. So I never actually bought one. And then obviously the job that I have now came with a company car. So I don't need a commuter. So, but if I didn't have a job with a company car, that's what I was going to buy until they announced no more manual. So anyway, it was a cool little interaction with this old guy. And he said it was like his 6th or 7th Corolla. And he's always bought the manual transmission fun version that he could. So he was very excited to see my 80 Corolla because he used to have one.
Nice.
Well, anyway, that's all. A good end to the podcast. A feel-good story to end the show.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, as always, follow the podcast. We're on Facebook, Out of Topic Podcast, Out of Topic on Instagram, Out of Topic on Threads. I am Race and Anger on Instagram and Threads. I haven't posted much on Instagram because I haven't done much car stuff, but I'm getting back to it.
Either.
So, yeah, I did a couple things for Scale Autocast, but I haven't recently.
Man, I'm still sitting on all the pictures that I need to upload for Scale Autocast for the model build off we did. I just haven't uploaded them yet.
Yeah.
So there we're at.
We're getting there.
Get
this
there.
isn't our full-time job, so
Yeah,
if you want
obviously
to get all our basically I don't want to say content. I don't know. If you just want to talk cars all the time,
If you want to be
Discord is
involved,
a good place for that.
Yep.
Yeah, just come hang out with the Discord. There's no cost. We're not asking anyone for Patreon. You just hang out.
Just come hang out in the Discord.
Yep, and just send
Don't
us
be
a
a dick
message
and have a good time talking about cars.
Yeah, send us a message
That's
and
really
we'll
the
send you a
rule.
link.
Yep.
So either one of us, we'll get you a link. Yeah, Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at TSISS350. All the places you mentioned. And now that TikTok's going away, maybe we should start a TikTok.
Yes, let's get on that.
No time like the present.
Right after this. Well, anyway, as always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.